I'm very excited to be here with all of you. I am also working on one of the education teams at Microsoft. We're all based in Seattle, and we are very excited to be here and talk to you all about all of this. I'm going to be talking a little bit about OneNote and how you can use it as a student. And if you want, you can follow me on Twitter. There's my Twitter name, TessaLynn_N. And I don't think I can click on the slides, so if someone could move them for me, that would be awesome. Okay, so I guess the overall theme of all of this is how you can use all these different Microsoft products to be more collaborative and stay organized as a student, whether it's with Power Automate and making different things easier for you, making sure you don't miss any important emails, or you automate some things that make your life easier, or you're using Teams to collaborate with other people. All of those things are awesome, but something that I think a lot of people might not know about is OneNote being good for notes and organizations. Obviously, it's part of the name, but also for being able to collaborate with other people. You can have a shared OneNote notebook, and I'll talk about what a notebook is in a second. But you can work on your notes with other people. You can share your pages with other people, so it's really good for creating study guides and study groups and things like that. Another big thing is that it has mobile apps, so you can take your notes with you anywhere you need to go. It can record audio and all sorts of fun stuff, and I'll jump into more of these in detail as well. It can read out loud to you. It can translate into many different languages. It can do so many things that I think a lot of people might not realize. And I know from I was a student 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, sitting in the back of classrooms, sometimes seeing people still take notes in Microsoft Word, and I'm like, did you know there's an entire product where that's just for note taking? I actually did go up and tell people that sometimes. So I'm very passionate about this, and I want to explain why. If you go to the next slide, please. Awesome. So the basic idea, and this is actually a screenshot from one of my class notebooks, from one of my, I think this was a neural networks class. But the basic structure of OneNote is the idea of notebooks, and that's the biggest structure you can have in a OneNote file, is you can have different notebooks. Within a notebook, you can have different sections. And then within each section, you can have individual pages. So there's a lot of different things you could do with these different structures. But for me, what worked best was I made a notebook for every semester of classes that I had, or if you have quarters or however long your unit of classes are, that's what I made my notebooks. For my sections, I made a section for every individual class that I was in, or if I was like in a student group or something like that, I made a section for that. And then within each section for each class, I made a page, and that changed depending on the class. So some of my classes, the professors were super organized, and they had already like the syllabus was planned out. We had like this is what we're doing on each day sort of thing. So that made making my pages in my OneNote really easy. Sometimes I kind of just threw random pages in there anytime we started a new topic, or just a page per lecture. So it's really up to you on how you want to organize it, but that's the thing I love about OneNote, is it gives you a lot of freedom to organize your notes in a way that works best for you. So for me, you can see here that I made a notebook called 17. I made a section for each of my classes, and then within my intelligent systems class, I made a page for each of the different topics that we were covering. And if you go to the next page, please. Okay, And so one of the things I also loved about OneNote is not only can you type your own notes into it, you can actually insert all sorts of different things into it. So the thing that I used the most was this printout feature here in the middle. If you go into the Insert tab and then Print Out, anything that you can send to like a physical printer, you can send to OneNote, basically, if you imagine like OneNote is your printer. So if you have some PowerPoint slides that your professor has uploaded for your class, you can print those slides into your OneNote. If you have a PDF or a Word document or even a website and you want to put that into your notes so it's all in one place, you can do that super easily. And you can also search through all the text in those printouts as well. So and I'll talk about search a little bit more, but basically it's a way to standardize all of your different formats of notes and put them all in one place. Some of the other things you can insert there, you can insert like a link to a file if you don't want to print out the entire file. Like sometimes I did that if I had like a PDF textbook. I didn't want to put the whole textbook in my OneNote, like printed out. I could just put a link to the file. You can put tables, you can insert pictures. The video one is really cool. You could put like you could put a link to a YouTube video and the video will render like inline. So you can actually watch the video without having to go to a browser, all within OneNote. All sorts of different stuff, and I'll talk a little bit later about other fun things you can insert as well, but those are the main ones. Okay, and then the other big thing about OneNote is not only can you write in it, not only can you insert different types of media and things into it, but it's also a big blank empty canvas. And what I mean by that, it's not like a Word document where you have only so much width and height on each page. OneNote is an infinite blank canvas, so you can scroll left and right as much as you need to. You can scroll up and down. The page is endless in all directions. So that's really nice sometimes if you're writing some sort of equation or you have your slides on the left side of your screen, but you want to kind of write or type to the right of it and you might not have enough room. You do have enough room in OneNote because it goes as far as you want it to, which is really nice. And then there's some other options here on the View tab of different ways that you can format that endless space. So you can add lines if you want it to look like lined paper, or maybe if you're taking a chemistry course or you're taking a math course and you need some more grids, you can add that as well. So and you can change the colors and whatever you need to, but there's so many different things that you can do to personalize your OneNote notebook. Next page, please. Awesome. And then I kind of mentioned this a few seconds ago, but the other thing is if you have some sort of tablet or if you have a mobile device that you can write on, I personally really like the 2-in-1 laptops or like Surface, where you can, that's what I used all 5 years of when I was in school. I had a laptop that also flipped into a tablet and I used it literally all the time, and this is some of the notes that I took. You can see here that there are some PowerPoint slides. There's actually 2 on this image right here that I had printed into OneNote directly from my professor's slides. And then as he was going through the slides in class, I would highlight on top of it, I would write on it. I had a whole like color coding system of pink was like what I did when I didn't know something and I needed to go back to it, like what is why? I don't know. I don't remember. But I know that that's something that I would have needed to go back to. Blue was something that, like, if the professor mentioned it was going to be on homework or on a quiz or an exam, I knew that that's something that when I was going through my notes again, that it's something that would pop out and be like, oh, he said this was going to be important, and that we would be tested on it, so let me review it again. So it's really just showing you an example of what my notes looked like and what worked for me. But the idea that you can, because a lot of people I would see, they would have the notes pulled up on their computers, like the PowerPoint slides, and then they would be rewriting the whole slide plus their own notes on a piece of paper, which works for some people, but for me, rewriting the stuff that was already on the slides was redundant and gave me less time to focus on what the professor was actually saying. So for me, being able to print those slides right into OneNote and then write on top of them was life-saving. It was awesome. Next slide, please. Okay, and here are some more of the insert options that I mentioned I would talk about. I put a little bit of descriptions of them in there in case anyone wanted to come back to this later and was like, what was that one again? Because there's so many different things you can do within OneNote. One of the coolest ones that might be cooler when you're actually in person in a lecture. I'm not sure how much of what you all are doing are in person or virtual right now, but this audio recording feature in OneNote is so cool. You can start recording audio of a lecture or a meeting or something that you might be in, and it'll start recording the audio through your computer, your device. But the really cool thing is when you play it back, let's say you're taking notes as your professor is talking and as you're recording audio. When you play that audio back, your OneNote page will reset and it will show you, like if say you jump to the middle of the audio, it'll show you exactly what you were typing at that moment in time when that audio was being recorded. So you can basically replay the whole lecture and you can see, let's say like, oh, I wrote this down in my notes, but I'm not really sure what was going on at that point in the lecture. Like I want to review this specific note. You can go back to that very specific moment in time and hear what the professor was saying at that moment, which is super cool. So that's a cool feature. Meeting details, also pretty cool. It'll basically, like, let's say you're meeting for a student group or something like that. You have regular meetings with your leadership team every few weeks. You can press this meeting details insert option and it'll insert the name of the meeting, the date, the list of the people that were invited and the people that showed up. And it'll basically just create kind of like a template for you for your meeting notes that you can then share with other people, which is helpful. These symbol, equation, and math tools are also very helpful, especially if you're doing some sort of like science or engineering degree where sometimes you have to like write reports with very strange symbols. And for me, it was always like going into Word and then like scrolling through that tiny little insert box of the different symbols that pop up and being like, is this the right one? No, is this the right one? I don't know. But with these tools, if you draw, or if even with your mouse, if you draw the symbol that you're trying to find and you click one of these buttons, it'll actually suggest the symbol for you, and then you can copy it as text and paste it into your Word document or whatever you need. You can write out whole equations at once and it'll do its best at recognizing what it thinks that equation is, and then you can go and like spot check it and say, oh, this wasn't cubed, this was actually a squared. And so you can go in and just change the piece that it messed up. Very helpful to draw out, even with your mouse, some equations that make turning it into text a lot easier. The math tools are really cool too, because not only can it recognize your equation and turn it into text, but it can also graph your equation, it can solve your equation, it can give you practice other equations that are similar to it, it does a lot of really cool things. I highly recommend checking it out. And then there's also fun things like stickers that are just built in there, and Researcher is really cool. If you click on it, it'll open up some, like a search basically, where you can search for more solid resources like articles or like scholarly journals, things like that. It's just built right in there, so you don't have to go do an extra search. And then you can also insert things like forms and other things as well. But there's so many different things all integrated within OneNote to make your notes and everything as organized as possible. Next slide, please. Okay, this one is I'm a little bit biased because this is the team that I work on. I work on the Immersive Reader team, but I'm going to tell you it's actually really cool, and I'm sure Amy and Gabby can back me up. But I think this is, it's a very cool tool. Okay, so basically the idea of Immersive Reader, it's a tool you can get not just in OneNote, but you can also get it in all sorts of different products, whether you're in Word, or you're in Outlook, or you're in Teams, or even a third party. If any of you have heard of Microsoft Cognitive Services, Immersive Reader is now also a cognitive service, which means that any third-party developer, if you want to add some accessibility tools into your website, you can add Immersive Reader in there. So highly recommend checking that out if you want to do a hackathon project or something. It's all open source and on GitHub too, so if you want to contribute to our SDK, you can do that. If you have no idea what any of that means, no worries. I'll tell you why Immersive Reader is cool. So Immersive Reader, you can get in OneNote if you go to the View tab and then press Immersive Reader. And what it does basically, no matter what platform you're on, it scoops the text up from whatever you're looking at. So in OneNote, it'll take any of the text on the page, including text that might be in any pictures or files that you have printed out onto the page. It'll grab that text and then it'll plop it full screen into this Immersive Reader view. And it can do a lot of different things in there. So if you see at the top right of the Immersive Reader screen, there's some different panel options, and so you can not only do things like change the colors and the size of the text and how far apart things are spaced, but there's also grammar tools. So you can see here that I have highlighted in green, I have different nouns highlighted. In red, I have different verbs highlighted. If that's something that helps you read, you can also break words into syllables. And then on the last one, on that little book icon, you can do things like turn picture dictionary on. So you can click on individual words and you can see a picture for those. You can also turn on translate. We translate into, I think, over 70 languages at this point. You can translate the whole document or just word by word as you click on it. And you can translate between the two languages that you're on at that top level there. So two different options up there. So all sorts of different things you can do with an Immersive Reader. And then at the very bottom, you'll see a green triangle, and that's what will let you have your text be read out loud to you. So let's say you're writing an essay or something like that, and you want to check yourself for grammar and any mistakes. You can actually have Immersive Reader read it out loud to you, and you can say how fast or slow, and if you want a male or a female voice, and it reads out loud in different languages as well. So all sorts of different things you can use if you're just reading a textbook, or if you are looking for some help with your essay, all sorts of, or you're studying a foreign language. All sorts of different things you can use it for. But I know I'm a little bit biased because this is my team, but very cool stuff. Next slide, please. Okay, so if all of that stuff in OneNote isn't cool enough for you yet, the other really awesome thing is that you can, on any of your pages in your OneNote, as well as at the notebook level as well, if you want to share a whole notebook or just a page with specific people, all you have to do is right-click on it and press copy link to page and send it to your study group, and they'll have access, which is really cool and is a great way to like share a study guide or anything like that. And then you can all collaborate and write and insert and draw all on the same page, which is really cool. Next page, please. Okay, and then the other really powerful thing is that you can search through all of your notes at the notebook level, at the section level, or at the page level. So let's say, oh, I know I learned about neural networks or whatever you want, but I don't remember what semester I took that class in. You can literally search through all of your notes that you've ever taken in OneNote all at once and find different pages of where that might have happened. It's so useful, and if you have your notebooks opened in your phone as well, if you go to the next slide, Gabby, or whoever is moving the slides so nicely for me, thank you. You can do that search on any device as well. So you could be studying with your friends and only have your phone on you, and you want to look up a specific equation or something, and you don't remember what day you took that note, and you don't remember even what class it was in. You can literally search by keywords. It'll search through all of your notes all at once, and you can do it all from your phone. It's very powerful, and one of the reasons I think it's one of the best tools for students, but especially when you combine it with things like Teams, when you combine it with things like Power Automate, so powerful. And hope you guys all check it out. But yeah, basically OneNote is the tool for organizing, collaborating, and your notes on the go, all in one place. And someone did have a really good question in the chat earlier. I haven't watched while I've been talking just now, but someone had a really good question of like, what makes Teams different? Like, why have, like someone mentioned SharePoint and Teams. I'm sure you could make the same question for why have OneNote and Teams. Teams is kind of the umbrella product that is the one place that you can go that is the connecting point between all of your other products. So for example, you could have a OneNote notebook that lives within a team. So you don't even have to leave Teams technically. Let's say you have a team for your student group and you have a section in there for your different meetings that you have, and you have a page for each different day you have a meeting. From within Teams, everyone on that team in your group can go into that OneNote notebook onto that page and start collaborating, and you don't even have to open the OneNote app if you don't want to. Which is super powerful. But if you want some of those other like insert options and all of those other fancier things, you would want to open it from the app. But the idea is that Teams is kind of like the hub, the home for all of those other products. So you can do a lot from within Teams without ever leaving. But all of the other products do exist separately too, if you want some of those more intense features. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense, but also happy to answer more questions in the chat. Reach out to us on Twitter. Always happy to answer any questions. And then the last thing we wanted to do, and I'll let Gabby and Amy say any last words as well if they want to, but if you are a student, you are a university student or a higher ed student, basically, anyone that is using any sort of Microsoft products or are interested in using them, we have this beautiful student forum is what we're calling it. It's basically a team that is open for anyone to join. There's no sort of like like admission process or anything. You just have to be a student and be interested in Microsoft products. You can join at this link, aka.ms/join student forum. And it's basically a place where you can go to give feedback to us as Microsoft employees on using Microsoft products as a student. It's a place where you can get ideas on how to use those products. It's a place where you can connect with other students from around the world on how to use those products. And we have different events every month. We have contests. And it's just a great place to come connect and learn more about Microsoft products. And we'd love to have you join. Just use that link, send it to all your friends. But yeah, that's a little bit from us.